infinite, powerful beings. But the more drugs you consume and the more unnatural garbage you consume and the more poisons you consume, the more chemicals you laden your body down with, the less that your immune system is going to do on its own. It's going to lose its, I guess I want to say like talent, but I think there's definitely a better word. It loses its talent of how to help you out and help you become healthy, right? So I am not, in that realm of things, and I rarely get sick. When I do get sick, it's a cold and it lasts for like 2 days. And I do nothing but natural stuff all the time. So, which isn't to say that in my eating habits, I'm always eating natural, but I try to as much as possible. And I think that's what's really important is what you do 90% of the time. And the other 10% still counts, but it doesn't count as much, but I'm gradually, again, that's a topic for another show, but I'm gradually working towards 100%. And hopefully, in 10, 15, 20 years, I'll be at 100%. But anyway, so the other vision that I was given was I saw hundreds of people in a school gym or like something of that nature, right? And everyone's sitting in chairs. And at each chair, each like student or person, students are people, you know what I mean? Each young kid or an adult, because it didn't really matter. It was a wide range of ages sitting in the chairs waiting to be vaccinated. There were nurses sitting on chairs across from them. But what I knew immediately upon watching these people was that everyone who was about to be vaccinated was protected from this. And I knew that it was an extraterrestrial source that was protecting them. So when the nurses would go to inject the needles, right, the needles would either disintegrate into nothing and just literally fall apart into sand, basically, into the nurse's hands. Or the needles would touch the skin, but they couldn't break the skin. Almost like the skin was like steel or something. And the other thing that the needles would do is they would touch the skin and they would immediately bend into curved shapes so that there's no way that the needles could get into the bodies, and needless to say, although I'm going to say it anyway, everybody looked shocked. And so many of the people who had originally volunteered to be vaccinated in whatever this program was, they totally looked relieved. Oh, great, we don't have to get the vaccination now. I understand, I'm not for vaccinations. So anyway, that was a really interesting point for me. And then I also felt too that there was someone standing behind me at one point, and I could visualize him. And it's not to say that he was a man. He had an incredibly high masculine energy, but it was very positive. So it was very protector. It was very fatherly. It was very loving. And logical too, actually. And this, well, it was an extraterrestrial. It was standing behind me at the couch. And here I am back at the couch again in my mind's eye. And this tall ET, and he's maybe about like 6.5 feet, and really, really skinny and hairless with a large head, but he wasn't a gray, with a large head, very large eyes. But his skin was pink. Almost like when you get burnt by the sun. Yeah, he was kind of a blush color. And I felt his hands on my shoulder, and I knew he had 3 fingers and a thumb. And I felt his hands on my shoulder, just my shoulders, just there to, I guess, to ground me, to keep me grounded and not have me disappear into the ether. And at one point he lifted his hands from my shoulders and he touched from the back, he touched either sides of my jaw, and he turned my head to the left ever so slightly. And my head started turning and I was thinking, oh my God, this is amazing. It really is an incredible experience. And then there were other things that happened in between all those images and pictures, images, sound blips here and there. So it'd just be like a short little blip or whatever else, like it almost like the beginning of a song and someone pauses it at 1 second. So I was getting a lot of that happening in between. And at one time I remember kind of going down a time tunnel, and I remember images and everything shifting past me really, really quickly, almost like, Star Wars or is it Star Wars where they're going like hyperspace or whatever, and all of the stars become lines because they're going so fast. And that was what was happening with me. And I was getting images and everything going down this time tunnel. But the thing that really, 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 really stuck with me the most, and even though all of this was amazing, the thing I really is amazing is that in one point of my meditation, I was a sylph. And if you don't know what a sylph is, and I don't know much of the history behind the sylph, but if you don't know what a sylph is, if you look up into the sky and you see a cloud that's very bird-like or very angel-like, with like, a long beak or obvious long wings and a long tail, like maybe even phoenix-like, that's a sylph. And from what I understand, they are meant to be like gods of the sky or like protectors or guardians of the sky or whatever else. And so I was standing in my backyard where I actually live, and in the meditation still. And all of a sudden I'm floating up into the sky, and I know immediately I'm turning into this cloud, this sylph. And I get this, this big bird beak and these long feathery bird wings, which are actually very much phoenix-like. And then, the long phoenix tail. And I'm looking down and I'm seeing everyone on the ground, and I'm not too high up, maybe 100 feet, if that. It was really, really amazing because during this experience, this was the experience during my Fire the Grid meditation that I really, really, really felt something. And I'm not saying that I didn't feel anything before. I definitely did. But now I was having thoughts as the sylph. So because before this point, I was having thoughts throughout the meditation as myself. And now I was actually this sylph. And I knew that my modus operandi, my only reason for existing, was to clean the air. That was the only reason I was here. And that was enough because, there's a lot of work to be done and I want to do it. And so I looked up ahead of me, and from looking down at the ground at the people, and I looked up ahead of me and I saw these black, oily, like muddy, really gross looking crystals. And they were just hanging in the sky. And they were glittering under the sun. It was a really sunny, beautiful day. And since I knew that I was looking for debris, that's what I was up there for. These pebbles just suspended in the air, and I knew that they were toxic garbage from the ever infamous chemtrail. So I flew over to them, and I ingested them. And the only way I can explain that is I opened my big cloud bird mouth and I ingested them, and they were in my big cloudbird tummy, and I'm seeing these change, almost like a camera has been directed onto the cloudbird's tummy, myself, and I'm seeing these dark, oily, because that's what they look like. They look like oil slicks, but in pebbles. I'm seeing these things change, and they're turning into clear, glittering. Some of them are pure white, some of them are yellow, but a sunny yellow, not like a putrid, kind of mustardy yellow that looks sick almost. A very bright, beautiful, joyful yellow. And they're turning white and clear and yellow and very crystalline. So they're basically turning into these little crystalline pebbles. And I know that being in my stomach, it's cleaning up all the chemtrail debris. So once they're white and silver and clear and gold and everything, they're all sparkling in my tummy from the sun hitting them, and I drop them. I have myself a spiritual poo and these gorgeous glittering little diamonds, basically, that I have cleaned, fall to the ground. And I know that they're now going to heal everybody on the planet. So my job, in effect, is to fly around and clean everything that chemtrails creates, these little oily, gross pebbles. So what I took away, obviously, is that my power is to take the negative and turn it into positive. That was, the whole thing was very, very powerful. But this was perhaps the most powerful moment during the Fire the Grid meditation. So there isn't much today except talking about my experience.